Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show, sponsored by Betfred. So City lost in the derby, Liverpool lost at Anfield again, Rangers won the Scottish Premiership, Barcelona have a new president, and there's a new handball rule coming in on July the 1st. Not much has happened in the last 7 days. So much to talk about alongside Mark Langdon and myself. Delighted to say we have the former Everton, Arsenal, West Brom, Leicester. I mean, so many clubs you played for. Kev Campbell. Good to see you, Kev. How are you?
Good to be back. Good to see you, Scott.
Have you missed me since Monday?
Slightly, yeah. Ever so slightly.
That's only because Chelsea beat Everton, didn't they?
We
worked together on that one. Let's move swiftly on because there's lots to talk about. The big week's talking points, Liverpool. I mean, where Anfield was once a fortress, it's 6 straight defeats there now. I mean, they were 5 points at the top after beating Crystal Palace 7-0 just before Christmas. They're now 22 points off the top, 7 points off 4th, sitting 8th. Have you ever seen a collapse like it, especially from a champion?
No, I've never seen anything like that. For me, I think this just goes to show how much that crowd at Anfield influenced them. And because they play such high pressure football, the fans are involved in it. And they've obviously dropped levels. They've obviously lost defenders. But that shouldn't make you just plummet like that. And you look at the teams that have beaten them there. You know, there's some teams who should be leaving with, no points, let alone 3 points.
Yeah,
so
maybe even 3 or 4 in the down. So what do you put it down to then? Because there's obviously the injuries and that can then snowball. Or do you think that Jurgen Klopp's kind of intensity of the last 2, 3, 4 years has just burnt them out at the moment?
Caught up with them. I think the front three always were the standard bearers. They were the ones who got them across the line. But Salah's scoring now and again. Mane's gone very quiet. Firmino's gone very quiet. When you don't have that output from your front players, it leaves a lot of pressure on the midfield and the defence to try and keep them in games. And it's just not happening. They've hit the wall.
Okay, you're Jurgen Klopp. What's the solution?
I'll take them out. I'll take them out for a Chinese, and I'll get them a few drinks. Seriously, I'll get them a few drinks, and I'll try and get in their heads about, come on, lads. We've still got so much to play for this season. They're in the Champions League. They still can make top 4 in the league, but they need to get themselves going. So come on, boys, get going.
Chinese and beers. I'd love to play under you if ever you become a manager. Mark, what would it mean if they weren't to make the Champions League? I mean, how big would that be?
Oh, it would obviously, it would be a big blow to them. I mean, they've had a lot of success in recent years. Won the league, they've won the Champions League, they've reached the Champions League final. So it wouldn't be the first big team to miss out one year. I think the Premier League is very intense. Like, I look at some of the other leagues around Europe, and it feels like no matter how bad Bayern Munich sort of were now, like they couldn't miss out on the Champions League. Paris, even if they don't win the league, are not going to finish like 4th. In Spain, it's unthinkable to believe that Real Madrid or Barcelona could finish anywhere outside of the top 4. In the Premier League, there's kind of 6 or 7 teams that feel like they should be in the top 4, and so there will. I think there's always going to be.
They're not even 6th or 7th.
No, they're not. But they've got. They've dropped a lot of points. They've got quite a lot of nice games coming up. So I still think there is half a chance that they could get themselves back into it. But I agree with Kevin about the forward players, because you look at some of their defeats. 1-0 to Fulham, 1-0 to Burnley. That's not the defence causing the issues there. I mean, you will concede the odd goal. Like, you expect your strikers to be able to score enough goals to even be able to concede one against those type of teams.
And just on Klopp, he's ruled himself out of the Germany job with Jogi Löw going. Can you see that changing in any way whatsoever?
I would be surprised. I feel like he won't want to leave on this kind of low in an empty stadium. You're almost sneaking out of the back door, aren't you? I feel like he'd want to have another proper season where you get a pre-season in, you get the fans back, you get Van Dijk back, and you try to sort of rebuild that. I would be surprised if he just quit after one bad year.
If he does go, I wonder who could come in. Steven Gerrard's done a pretty good job in. Congratulations to him and to Rangers as well. First win of the Scottish Premiership for a decade. Put into context the job that he's done there.
Well, when you consider Rangers were in obscurity a few years ago, playing against farmers, really. That's what they were doing. They were playing against farmers, non-league guys. And to build it the way he has, it's taken him a little time, which you can expect. But every season they've improved and they've got better. He's got better players in. And it so coincides with this was the season where Celtic were going to do 10 in a row. That's why the Rangers fans are so over the moon, because obviously they done 9, Celtic have done 9, and now they've put a stop to that. Steven Gerrard will be held in such high esteem up there on the blue side of Glasgow. And it's a wonderful, wonderful squad he's amassed. And for me, I think he wants to have a go at that Champions League with Rangers. Definitely, he's earned it.
And he's not just won the Scottish Premiership. I mean, they've been absolutely superb all season, haven't they? Former chairman Dave King said it's by far the most important title the club has ever won. Is he right?
I mean, it feels like it is, because it stopped Celtic's 10 in a row, and it's kind of that first building block back to where they kind of feel like they belong. I'm sure there's sort of been times under Walter Smith and before that, when maybe they, at that time they would have felt like the most important trophies to have been won. I think what he's done probably best of all is the defence. They hardly give up, and I know they're strong favourites, but they hardly give up any chances. They keep so many clean sheets, and that I think is always a good sign. And he's got Gary McAllister in there with him, and a couple of other shrewd guys. So I don't think it's all Steven Gerrard, but I think Gerrard has been able to attract players from England that maybe wouldn't have gone to Rangers had Steven Gerrard not been there. I'm thinking something like a Rebo at Charlton. That I think he could have gone to the Premier League, and so that Gerrard being a magnet for the club, and it has coincided with, I think, Celtic taking their eye off the ball, thinking that maybe they didn't have to push quite as hard as what they actually needed to.
In a word, Steven Gerrard, whenever that may be, the next Liverpool manager?
I could see it. For sure.
We shall see. OK, now relegation. Wow, how interesting is that down at the bottom, Kev? Let's go through it quickly. Sheffield United, 12 points off safety, haven't played a game more. Down?
Gone.
West Brom, your former club, 8 points off safety, played a game more. Down?
Gone.
So Fulham played 28, 26 points. Brighton played 27, 26 points. Newcastle played 27, 27 points. Burnley played 28, 30 points. Southampton and Palace not totally safe. How do we see this, and who do you most worry for?
Well, I worry for Newcastle, if I'm brutally honest, solely because of the whole front three that they really rely on for goals, for chances created, for speed, is no longer there. They're relying on really Joe Linton and maybe a Dwight Gale coming off the bench to get them goals. And it's not good enough. And for all of the hullabaloo about, Steve Bruce not doing a good job, one thing you can't legislate for is injuries. And their injury record right now is horrendous. The quicker they could get them players back, the better.
Yeah. How well are Fulham doing? How the job that Scott Parker's done there? Could Steve Bruce lose his job before the end of the season if they drop into the bottom three? And how are Brighton still doing there with the great football they're playing? They just can't put the ball in the back of the net, can they?
I feel like Steve Bruce could go. Graham Jones is sort of in there now, and there are people that feel like he's doing a lot of the tactics, or it's hard to know from the outside. But it would be the last sort of ploy for Mike Ashley to do. You can't bring in any new players, so you kind of hope that a change of manager could just spark that kind of 2-match winning run that could be the difference between staying up and going down. So that was that one covered. Brighton, I think that there's a mental aspect to it now with Brighton where they kind of don't feel like they're ever going to win a game, and they threw away more points against Leicester with goalkeeping error quite late on. At some stage, you do have to worry for them to some extent, but I'm not there yet. I'm still a Brighton believer. And Fulham, I think if you judge them since they've had their team together, are nowhere near a relegation team. They sort of feel like to me like a round about a top 10 sort of side, around sort of could easily finish. If the season started now, I wouldn't put them anywhere near the bottom three. I think that they've got a bit of everything: really solid defence, quality in midfield, and real pace up front.
So we don't know what's going to happen with Steve Bruce and whether he might lose his job. Obviously, we all hope he doesn't. But what we know now, who's the team to join the two we've already said are going down?
Right now, I'd have to say Newcastle.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow. Unbelievable. Okay, final one here in the week's talking points. Last night, Tuesday night, in the Champions League, wasn't it?
Oh, it's probably the best night's football this season. I think I was feeling a little bit weary after the weekend. It wasn't maybe the greatest batch of games, but Dortmund just about got the job done, 2-2 against Sevilla to go for an aggregate. Haaland again got 2 goals. He's got some real attitude as well. Got involved in a bit of a ding-dong with a Sevilla goalkeeper who'd mocked him, and then he mocked him back, and not the first time he's done that. But the real story, I think, was in Turin, where for the 3rd season in a row, Juventus have gone out to what you would call a lesser light, this time in Porto, down to 10 men. Before that, it was Lyon, it was Ajax as well. You know, they bet the farm on Cristiano Ronaldo being able to deliver them a Champions League. Then they put in a completely inexperienced manager in Pirlo to try to do that, and that makes absolutely no sense to me. If you've got like one more year of Cristiano Ronaldo, give yourself the best chance by putting in a kind of elite level manager. They haven't done that. They paid the price, and I thought that Pepe and Porto were absolutely brilliant. And it was on the anniversary of the night when they went to Old Trafford and Mourinho did the knee slide. So maybe there's something about the date.
Just quickly on Haaland as well, how good is he, and can you see him being in the Premier League, and where next season?
Yeah, I think Haaland is right up there in that stratosphere where the air is very thin. Elite striker. I think him and Mbappe probably are the next 2 superstars. And could I see him in the Premier League? Of course I can. I think him and his dad, Alfie, who I played with at Forest, are handling him correctly, because Man United coveted him. He could have gone to Manchester United. They didn't take that route. They went to Dortmund, learned his trade, and you could see Champions League is banging goals in. He looks a complete player, and he's so young. Still will have loads to learn, but he looks a right handful, and he knows where the back of the net is. So could I see him coming to the Premiership? Definitely.
Just any team in particular or not?
Well, you could see him going Chelsea. You could see him going to, I'd like to think Arsenal. You could see Manchester United, definitely.
Any team that can afford him, basically.
Even Man City.
Man City would be the one for me if they wanted to replace Aguero.
Man City or Chelsea for me. It's going to be interesting. Leeds at some point, but not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon.
Okay, let's go to our Q&A section, shall we, where we give a chance of a viewer to win a £25 Amazon voucher. You ready for a couple of questions, Kev?
Yep, ready.
Okay, first up from Jim Moore. What was it like playing in the Turkish League?
It was absolutely brilliant. It was wild. It was wonderful. It was colourful. But best of all, the atmospheres were sensational, especially at the old Ali Sami Yen Galatasaray Stadium. Welcome to hell, all the signs. It was absolutely brilliant. It's so intense, it was incredible.
In what way wild? I mean, sort of on and off the pitch?
Yeah, on and off the pitch. Well, one of the stories was we're playing Galatasaray, and that Galatasaray, Alice, you come out behind the goal, and the riot police have got their riot shields up. So as we're coming out, and you hear like things hitting, coins hitting, and there's a little old fellow with a bucket, and you walk past him, and I'm going towards the pitch, and I turn back, and he's picking up these balls with nails in and stuff like that. He's putting them back in the bucket. So I get on the pitch and I turn back, and he's taking it back for round 2 when we're coming off. Just to unsettle you. It's amazing. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I thought you were going to say that he would put coins in and he'd have about £5 after each
He left the coins.
My goodness, that is wild. Adam Smith as well. Who is the most underrated player in the current Arsenal team?
Underrated, I would say, is Emil Smith-Rowe. I think people see that he's got the talent, but I think there's a lot more to come from him. A lot more. He's carried the team most of the season, but I think Smith-Rowe has got some real ability, and I think in the next years to come, we're going to see that.
To what level?
I just think somebody who plays the way he does, who can change the tempo at the top end of the pitch, because whether it's picking a pass or it's a one-touch move and pass and move, he does it effortlessly. And again, he's only 20 years old. This is what we've got to take into consideration. Carrying an Arsenal team that 18, 19, 20-year-olds don't carry Arsenal. And at the moment, they got 2.
Okay, we'll come on to Arsenal's game, big game at the weekend, of course, in a little bit. But let's get to our game previews. First one up, it is Leeds versus Chelsea. Another classic one, really. It was a shame there'd be no fans here. Chelsea were very good on Monday, weren't they?
They were excellent. I've got to say, Chelsea were excellent. Systematically broke Everton down. And Everton have been decent away from home. But, you know, they moved that ball, they asked the questions, Everton handled most of it. And then when you least think, you know, Alonso gets in, get a little bit of fortune, but you keep knocking on the door, it's going to open up. They go 1-0 up. They were a very comfortable second half. And if it weren't for Pickford, it could have been 4, 5, 6, if we're honest. So I think Chelsea's tails are up right now. Leeds are struggling. And I think Chelsea are on the march.
Yeah, Tuchel's made some impact, to be fair to him, hasn't he?
I think, particularly defensively, because they're just giving up so few chances at the moment. It's hard to recall sort of, you know, them being opened up, since he's been there, really. I mean, thinking back to sort of the Minamino goal, I thought that was just a really good goal from Southampton, and you can't stop everything all the time. But they are really protecting the goalkeeper at the moment, and he is playing the game quite nicely with the players. He's giving everybody the right amount of minutes, which helps, I think. And whether he can do that long term, who knows? But for the time being, if you've got that bigger squad, I think you do have to try that. And it felt like Frank Lampard was searching for that settled team, so he wanted to kind of pick the same kind of guys, which I understand that approach. But I think Tuchel, maybe having managed at Paris previously, you kind of understand it differently.
Manage egos. It's one of the big things nowadays, isn't it? Leeds, love watching them. Be an open game, won't it?
It will be an open game, but I think they're going to get undone because the way they play, they leave the back door open. And against this Chelsea side, even though Werner struggled a little bit, he is still so dangerous and he helps the team. He works hard. I just think Leeds are tailor-made for Chelsea, if I'm honest with you, especially the way Chelsea are playing now. So, yeah, they'll be good at attacking, but as soon as they turn that ball over, I think Chelsea are going to run riot.
OK, Betfred selection for this one?
Yeah, Chelsea. I'm going to go for Chelsea to win by 2 clear goals.
OK, Mark?
Yeah, I think Chelsea will win. Leeds haven't beaten a team in the top 13 at Ellen Road this season, so I think they do struggle when they're just upped in class, and having no fans there probably does affect them in this type of game.
Yeah, love watching Leeds in the Championship. I love watching them now in the Premier League as well, but they come up against a top class side right now. Full house, Chelsea to nil for me. OK, game preview 2. It is Fulham against Manchester City. Now, City have Southampton tonight, but let's talk about the United game from a City angle. Yes, they got off to a really poor start, but after the run they were already on at that particular time, why weren't they able to really pepper United's goal and turn it around?
I think United know how to play against City, especially at the Etihad. And United, they had a great block, but one thing United do, and United have a lot of pace in their team, they keep you having to guess. Because when you turn that ball over, they have the speed to really expose you. And when that's in the back of your mind, you have to you can't fully commit. I think when Man City are playing at their best, they fully commit players forward because they know the opposition can't hurt us. But against United can really hurt them, and they've proven that. So they just didn't have that conviction that they usually have because of the opposition, which is, fair play to Manchester United. But I think they get back on the horse and get a win.
We haven't seriously talked about the quadruple yet, but did this show that they are? I mean, any team can be vulnerable, I suppose, in a one-off game. They've got a League Cup final, one-off, FA Cups, a one-off. A Champions League, OK, maybe 2-leg, but you can't afford to lose 2-0 at home, can you?
No, I think the Champions League has been the Achilles heel. I'd still, domestically, I think you'd maybe say in the FA Cup, Chelsea now have got that kind of game where they might be able to defend well enough and sort of have a structure, and United are still in the FA Cup and have proven to be a bit of a bogey team. So probably looks more difficult than it did a week ago. That worried me a bit, that Manchester United game, just because you're thinking about the Champions League, because that is kind of the holy grail for them. And we've seen this before in big games from Man City where they do silly things early on in games. At Anfield a couple of years ago, they were out of the Champions League, after half an hour against Tottenham. Heung-min Son had scored twice inside 15 minutes away goals. They have this, and I think that Pep had it a little bit, not so much at Barcelona, but he had it at Bayern Munich as well, where it just, when the team wobbles, they can't sort themselves out quickly enough. And in a one-off game, over a league season, it's fine because, you can lose a game, you've got 37 other matches to sort it out. In the Champions League, you can be out with a bad 10 minutes. And against United, they started poorly, and United could have been further ahead. And I was thinking, what's going on here with Man City? And that's the biggest concern. Like, there's almost like a computer breakdown. That maybe it's because they're so good, and then they're not put under pressure that often, and that they're maybe not quite so sure how to deal with it.
I couldn't agree more. In terms of Fulham, we've touched on the great job that Scott Parker has done. How does he plan to win this game? And if he somehow does, will that just give them so much confidence that they will be staying up going forward?
Well, let's look at it like this. You win at Anfield, and then if you can beat Manchester City, you're staying up. I can guarantee you that, because the confidence through the team will be incredible. What they've got to do is defend properly. They've got to defend properly. If you don't concede, you've always got a chance to win the game. But if you let City get ahead, you've got no chance.
So what's your Betfred selection for this one?
I'm going to go for Man City, and Man City will win without conceding.
Okay, Mark?
I'm going to go for Man City to win and under 3.5 goals, because I think Fulham are doing well enough to keep this, more than respectable.
Yeah, Fulham have confidence, but City champions, and they bounce back. Full house. City to win both halves for me. Okay, game preview 3. You look forward to this one. It is Arsenal against Tottenham, the North London derby. Kev, Arsenal, are you happy with how they're progressing under Arteta? How do you see him?
It's a bit of a mixed bag for me, because I see improvement. I see what Arteta's doing. There was a lot to do. But, with the league position, some of the games they've lost have been downright awful. Some of the performances have been poor, and when you get the opportunity to put teams away, Arsenal ain't taking it. And this is the common denominator, what keeps recurring with this Arsenal side. With Thomas Partey in the midfield, Arsenal play a lot better. They play through the lines a lot quicker, and they look a better team. But even second half, where Burnley adjusted, they brought the two wide players inside to make it tighter in the midfield. Arsenal couldn't play through the lines, and they started to get a grip of the game. So for me, I just think Mikel Arteta, he's in a bit of a transition right now. We know that, but he's got to find a way how to get these guys to bury some teams.
Do you think he's the right man for Arsenal? And in terms of getting up to at least top 4, how long do you think it will take, and what does he need?
For me, I think Mikel Arteta is the right man at the moment, for sure, because, as I said, there was a lot of moving parts to deal with when he first came in. He's handled quite a bit of that. They've got certain players out. Now he's trying to build his own team in his image. So what he's got to do, he's got to get this team up the league. He has to try and win the Europa League. If that doesn't happen, he needs to get to the summer, and he needs to recruit properly, because another season like this, and I don't think he will be there, if I'm honest with you.
Interesting. Spurs, 5 points off 4th with a game in hand. What is it, 3 straight wins now after back-to-back league defeats? What's changed?
Well, I think that Gareth Bale's turned up, which always helps. I'm not sure a huge amount has changed. It was a nice little run of fixtures. The Fulham result was a good one, but you should be beating Crystal Palace at home. You should be beating Burnley at home, and they did it well. But I don't feel like a huge amount has changed in terms of the overall structure. Reguilon coming back is a big one at left back, adds dynamism to the team. Ben Davies very solid, but just lacks that natural ability, I think.
Crucial
going
position.
Forward. All the best play, all the best attack start from there, Scott. I also think that he's beginning to believe in a centre-back partnership, kept on changing. Eric Dyer was in, and he was alongside. Rodon was in for a little while. Toby would be in and out of the team. Sanchez has got a mistake in him, but the pace alongside Alderweireld is absolutely much needed, and will be in a game like this against Arsenal, against their pacey forwards. It just means they can go further up the pitch, can win the ball back higher. That first goal against Crystal Palace came from Lucas Moura turning it over. I think that's the combination. Getting everybody a little bit higher up the pitch, closer together, and Ndombele playing deeper, I think just helps the team as well.
It's going to be some front three now. Gareth Bale's in form, isn't it, for Spurs? Do you like or perhaps dislike the form he's in right now?
No, I like good players, and the fact that Gareth Bale came back, he hadn't played a lot of football, and I think they've handled him really well, actually, because it would have been easy to dismiss him because he hasn't hit form. But as I said, he hasn't played a lot of football. The fact now, second half of the season, the business end of the season, all of a sudden Gareth Bale turns up when it's the North London derby. It's great, isn't it? But no, listen, you want the best players to be turning up. It's the Premier League. You expect that to happen. And, it's going to be a hell of a game.
And just before we get your Betfred selection, it's not another game where it's such a shame there's no fans, but tell us what this fixture is like to play in. Tell us what it means to you.
Well, always the week before is you always get your mates. Your mates who are Spurs who are saying, you're going to do. Your Arsenal, whatever happens, you make sure you win, but you make sure you don't lose the game. So, the build-up is so intense. It's proper hatred. It is proper hatred, Arsenal, Spurs. In a nice way after, you can live with it, but before the game and during the game, it's so intense.
Okay, so which players? Well, I don't even know you're allowed to go out at the moment, so I'll change that one. I was going to say, will it be wanted to go out after a win, or how do you see it in terms of Betfred selection?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to have to go for Arsenal. Arsenal have to turn up some week, and I seem to be getting it wrong, so I'm still going to stick to it. I think Arsenal are going to win the game, but both teams are going to score.
Okay.
I'm going to go for a draw. I think what Kevin said there about not wanting to lose, I think we'll play in both sets of players. You could argue the Europa League is more important for Arsenal, but you can't really rest players in the North London derby. No. 4 of the last 6 at the Emirates have been draws as well in the Premier League, so share of the spoils.
I don't see Arsenal winning this, I really don't. I think Spurs are in good form. I think that front three, now Bale's in form as well. It's either a draw or a Spurs win. I'm going for Spurs win, but both to score as well. We'll see. Okay, game preview 4 on Sunday. It is Man United against West Ham. And look, we touched on United at City. I mean, how good were they? And tell us about Anthony Martial as well. I mean, his performance was superb. Why can't he do that on a consistent basis and show he's a proper United player?
I just think Anthony Martial is not a striker, but he's playing there, and there's going to be times where he shows himself because he's got unbelievable ability. And there's times and games where he doesn't look interested, maybe because he's not used to some of the buffeting that he's taking. When you play wide, you've got one defender to deal with. When you're playing in the centre, you've got a few bodies around you, and when the bodies hit you,
so does he have to then say to Ollie that I can't play in that position? Play me in my best position.
No, I don't think he's gonna moan because he's playing at Manchester United, Scott. But
he's getting criticism.
Yeah, he is getting criticism
at the moment,
and that comes as part of the territory at Manchester United. Listen, if Ollie's going to pick you down the middle, you play down the middle, and he has been successful there at times. But he's not a striker. He's not a centre forward. And if you see Cavani play and you see Martial play, Martial's got unbelievable talent. But Cavani knows how to play the position. I think that's the difference.
Yeah. Worrying signs then really with Edison Cavani's father saying that he's made himself loved, but he's not comfortable where he is. It looks like he perhaps wants to go back to South America. I don't know if it's the Manchester weather or just being close to his family. How big a blow would that be for United if he was to go? Because we're just talking, he's almost the only sort of out-and-out striker they have, isn't he?
No, I don't think it would be a big blow because presumably they would replace him, with... if they can, an elite forward that's sort of at the right age. I think Cavani was always going to be a stopgap, whether that was for 1 year or 2 years. I don't think it was ever a long-term solution to the problem they've got and they've had up front. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's done a lot of good things in terms of clearing out players he didn't want at Manchester United. But I watch Lukaku most weeks in Italy now, and you're saying, Manchester United need a proper number 9. I mean, there's very few better number 9s in the world right now than Lukaku. So imagine him in that United team. I mean, that could be, they're a long way off City. That could be the difference, turning the points against West Brom and Sheffield United he could have been that man.
Yeah, interesting to see who they do go for. I think they'll go for Haaland. Obviously, Ollie will try and have a word, but interesting to see if he goes to City or Chelsea or wherever. But West Ham are not going away, are they? No. I mean, another really good result against Leeds on Monday. What are they realistically fighting for? Champions League or Europa League?
Europa League, I think. The longer they're in the Champions League spot, obviously means that even if they drop out, they're dropping into Europa League. But I just think they're riding the crest of the wave right now. You know, as opposed to fighting relegation last season, everybody's confidence is high. David Moyes has got them not conceding goals at one end, scoring important goals at the other end. And they look like a functioning team. They look like a team. So I just think they're going to ride this as far as they can and see where they land. And right now it's been good enough for fifth.
They'd fancy something here, wouldn't they, in this game?
I think so. I mean, they took a weakened team to Old Trafford, and that game went, to extra time. So I think that they will. They played well at Man City a couple of weeks ago, just about deserved to lose, but played well enough to suggest that they do think they've got half a chance of the Champions League. I agree with Kevin that I think that Europa League is a much more realistic aim. The fact that they're not playing in midweek, they're out of all the cups, and you look at some of the other teams that got either Europa League or FA Cup, League Cup still to go. I think that it's a big advantage this season more than any other. Having a week on the training ground, they're not got any injuries, have they really? West Ham at the moment, they're managing Antonio, but in terms of there's a really settled kind of look to them, whereas other teams, Leicester 4, 5, 6 players out, and it's a big difference.
Be great to see them in there, along with Chelsea as well. Betfred selection for this game.
I'm going to go for Man United. I just think Manchester United are going to beat West Ham, and I'm going to think they're going to beat them pretty convincingly. So,
no, I'm going to go for West Ham or draw in this game, purely because I think United struggle against teams that sit deep and are well structured. They lost to Sheffield United, they drew with West Brom, they drew with Crystal Palace. I think the City game maybe suited them, and I'm not sure this one will.
I agree with you. I think typical United, they could be brilliant against someone like City, but they've not shown the consistency, and West Ham playing so well.
And Lingard can't play.
That's the blow.
The other one.
But then is Rashford out?
Well,
we'll have to wait and see on that one. We don't know till he has to be. Listen, whatever happens, I'm not going against West Ham. I'm going for a score draw in this one. Okay, final one here. Wolves versus Liverpool. It's a really interesting one, this, isn't it? Yeah. Klopp made 7 changes in the game against Fulham. It didn't work. What does he do here?
I think he's going to go strong. I really do.
What is strong?
He's the best players he can pick. I think he's gonna have to go for, because the league position is starting to get worrying. It's starting to get worrying for Liverpool fans and the football club. So, look, qualifying for the Champions League is very important. Can they do it winning the Champions League? Well, their present form says they're not going to win the Champions League, although they're doing pretty well in it. So they're going to have to do it through the league. And if you're going to do it through the league, you need to play your best team. So I think they're going to go very strong against Wolves as best they can.
How do you see Klopp in terms of team selection, but also just his kind of demeanour at the moment? He said it's probably one of the lowest points of his 20-year managerial career. Do you feel that, and I don't necessarily want to question him, but people are questioning him, that he's able to get themselves? Because if they finish outside the top 4, that's a disaster for Liverpool, isn't it?
It's a bad season.
It's more than a bad season.
But I still feel like there are mitigating circumstances to this season. All of the injuries, no pre-season, no crowd, I think does.
Can other clubs not say that?
Yeah, that they can. I just think there's been a bit of a randomness to some of the campaign, really. I look at some of the results and I don't quite understand them. I think where you definitely can question him is on the insistence with playing exactly the same way. And it was a strength earlier on, because I remember being on the show saying, well, one of the reasons Curtis Jones can come into the Liverpool team and he does so well is because they've got, plan A. If that doesn't work, they try harder, and they just stick to it. But I now think it's a weakness. If you've got 2 guys that are inexperienced centre-halves that are not used to playing at this level, you've got to protect them. You have to drop a little bit deeper. You have to make it easier for them. If that means that you kind of give up on your philosophy for 10 matches, then so be it. But his insistence on playing exactly the same way, they look exhausted as well. So I don't think they can press. And that's part of the problem. I think he maybe now needs to go, okay, what's the best way of protecting this team? be really solid, and then just try and play yourself back into games.
I'm not sure he's going to do that though.
No,
Maybe you would think Liverpool are there for the taking, but are a Wolves side capable of doing that, who have scored 28 goals in 28 games with a goal difference of -9?
This is the big question, and it depends what Wolves turns up, because we've seen Wolves on their day blow teams away, and then we've seen Wolves be awful and not be able to score and look a bit disjointed. So this is, the battle of both teams. Who turns up? Do Liverpool's front three turn up? If Liverpool's front three turn up, it's going to be a really exciting game. And Wolves have to find a way to score. If Wolves could get their noses in front, then Liverpool got big problems.
Okay, how do you see it going? Betfred selection?
Score draw. I'm going for a score draw. Yeah.
I'm with you on this one as well, low score draw. I think Liverpool are there for the taking. I'm just not sure Wolves are capable. Liverpool will bounce back at some point. And away from home, they're better. I think there is a mental thing there at Anfield now. But away from home, I think they can play a bit more. It'd be easy to say Wolves going for a win, but I'm going for a low score draw in this one.
I'm going to go for Liverpool not to win the game. So Wolves or draw, double chance. I just think that as sort of short price favourites, I just can't trust Liverpool at the moment. They've only won 3 Premier League games, I think, since Christmas. So not easy to back them at all.
Fantasy football picks this weekend. Each of us pick a player that we think will star. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's been out for long spells, especially after losing the derby. I think Manchester City really...
Wasn't at his best there either, was
he wasn't. And he needs to get back on the horse. And he's got to produce. And he's their best player. Let's make no bones about it. He's their best player. And I think he's going to step up because they need him.
Yeah, he's world class.
I've gone for Adam Lallana. I'm just going to give Brighton one more chance. But
Brighton believer still,
I am, yeah. But if you have a look at sort of Lallana, I know he scored the goal, but he's playing really high up, almost sort of alongside Mopé. And he is a class operator when he's fit. They've got a couple of nicer looking fixtures on the horizon as well, with Southampton, who could be tied after playing Man City, and then you've got Newcastle as well soon. I mean, that's absolutely massive game. So I just think Lallana, saw enough in that performance against Leicester to suggest he's playing really well at the moment.
Great to see him back to his perhaps not very best, but in good form. I've gone for Jamie Vardy. 1 goal in 11 games. That tells me as a striker, you know what it's like. That'll be eating away at you, and especially him, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. Listen, thing is with Jamie Vardy, if he's not functioning, most of the time, Leicester don't function.
Yeah.
1 goal, he's got to get back on the score sheet.
I think the stats will soon change, and I don't mean 1 goal in 12.
Yeah.
I think Sheffield United could be perfect for him to get back on track as well, so I'm going for Jamie Vardy. Okay, team treble. Each of us pick one team that we think will win this weekend. 14-1 this week.
Manchester United. I think they will beat West Ham convincingly.
Okay.
I'm going also in the Premier League. I'm going for Aston Villa to beat Newcastle. If you have a look at Newcastle squad list of available players, the highest scoring sort of player that is available is Jeff Hendrick with 2 goals this season. So, I mean, I've always sort of got them in for Newcastle nil for the next couple of weeks, and then it's just a case of whether Villa can get one. Yeah. There's a chance Grealish could be back. Even if he's not, I think someone like Ollie Watkins decides the game.
Pressure on me then now. Last week I went for Sheffield United. I said I thought there was a win in them. On the Wednesday they won, and at the weekend they didn't. I'm going for West Brom here actually. I looked at the odds, looked decent odds to beat a Palace team with 1 win in 6, and I think they're just about safe, but not playing particularly well at the moment. 1 goal wins this. This is a...
Yeah.
If anyone scores, that's the winner. It's as simple as that. And I just think Albion need it more. So I'm going for the Baggies on that one. 14-1. Wow. And that's it, Kev. What are you up to this weekend?
I am doing La Liga. I'm doing La Liga and for Facebook, and I love it. So Real Madrid and then Barcelona.
Okay.
This weekend.
Who's going to win a title?
Atletico.
Okay. Mark, what are you up to this weekend? Watching lots of football?
Yeah, nothing. nothing to do. It won't be long with it. I can see sort of the blue skies ahead.
Definitely, we're near there. I'm at the Valley, so looking forward to that one. Okay, that's it for this week's Different League show. Hope you've enjoyed it. We're back next week. We'll look back on all the week's talking points and look ahead to the big games as well. As ever, on behalf of Betfred and the Racing Post, if you are to gamble, please gamble responsibly. See you next week.